All right, I guess we're repping Tim Hortons today. We're working on the old 52, and I'm gonna cheat. I'm feeling a little lazy, don't really want to spend 3 days sanding and buffing. So we're gonna do this the easy way. I put just 2 coats of clear on. I don't have very much on here. 1 thin coat, 1 good coat. If you look at it, it looks really nice. But if you look at it close, it's got a lot of texture. These things build up texture from every time you put anything on it. So I put a sealer on it in places and base on it. And now I'm with 2 coats of clear. Everything you do, the gun has a certain amount of texture to it. Don't care how hard you lay it down there, you're going to have some, because what you built up on, these newer low VOC bases tend to be not as smooth as the old stuff. So you're going to paint over something that's got a little grain no matter what. And you keep seeing it. So everybody buffs them. I may still have to buff it being black, but I probably won't have to sand it as many times and do all of the stuff. So I'll show you what we're doing. If you look at it close, you see it. This here I sanded pretty good. And when you paint over one of these surfaces, for whatever reason, the paint lays down incredibly smooth. Even if you're not an experienced painter, it lays down, I mean, way smoother. But see here, I just barely sanded it. And that gives you an idea what we're talking about. You see those little peaks and valleys. And so we just sand those little peaks off. You don't have to go crazy here. Just going to knock those little peaks off. And then we're going to lay probably 2 more coats over it, I would imagine. Normally I'll put like a quick coat and a good coat. I'll have quite a bit of material on here if I do want to buff, and it will be, we'll show you a video after. If everything goes well, you never know when you're painting, but if everything goes well, this thing will be damn near like a mirror without buffing. I have done a few of them where, not black though, but I've done some reds and whites and stuff like that where I've got away with absolutely no buffing. Even won an award one time with my mother's 63 convertible. I painted it the first time and it buffed. I buffed it and everything. The second time it got hit. Some old lady drove into the side of her. I had to fix it. So I ended up, I just re-cleared the whole car when I was done. Wet sanded it, reshot it. That thing came out smooth, and they were kind of ugly at me for not buffing it, but I'm like, I can't lay a paint job down like that. I'm going to send it, you know? So I sent it off, and they went to a car show with it and won an award for paint. So I kind of laughed. I picked on the old man about it because I didn't buff it, but that's what you can do. Again, the right atmosphere, the right everything, it affects paint. We may get really lucky here, we may not, but we're going to give it a shot. I guarantee you, even if I don't get super lucky and it lays down like a mirror, I'll get lucky enough that I won't have to sand as much, because I could 400 this thing off wet really quick. When I start in with 1,000 and 3,000 and 5,000 and all the crap I do, it takes me forever. So it seems like more work, but I can guarantee you it's way less. There, she's all sanded up. Looking pretty smooth. It could be a really nice surface to paint on. So we'll have to clean it up. We'll have to wait for tomorrow, make sure all the water's out of everything. Blow everything out really good again. Silicone wash everything again. Then we can spray a couple coats on it. See how it turns out. If everything goes well, we won't have to buff. Now I'm sure wherever there's a little speck or something, you know, there may be a couple little spots, or I may hit a little dry spot somewhere. I'm not saying I won't have to buff it anywhere, but it might save me from sanding and buffing the entire car, which is a pretty good commitment. So hopefully we can avoid that. But anyway, we'll pick this back up here, get a little paint on it, see what we got. Yeah, I've been around this thing with a wax and grease remover, and I'm tack ragging it now. And wax and grease remover you kind of want to use just because if you have, your hands are oily, anything around you is oily. If you're painting one that's been previously painted, it's ever been waxed in a silicone wax, it's going to raise hell with your paint. You'll get fisheye and everything else, which is like a little hole in the paint. So perfect world, you got to wipe them down. And then the tack rag. The tack rag will pick up all the fine dust particles. I don't have a paint booth, and I've seen cars painted in nice paint booths that still had dirt. 90% of the dirt comes out of the inside of the car. And you can chase dirt around inside a car with an air hose for days. You're never going to get it. I find like a pressure washer is my best friend on that. I'll hose them out in good shape. That water will carry out whatever trash or debris is in the car, and usually you'll end up the cleanest way possible. And then try to tape up all your openings and all that good stuff. By putting the other clear coat we had on here on, it basically gives me another primer, really. I mean, it gives us another chance to block it, look everything over. Wasn't maybe quite as fussy as I would have been if I was trying to do a final paint job when I had it prepped. I knew there was a couple little fine scratches here and there and that sort of thing. They were real fine. Normally I would have dealt with them, but I let that go. So I maybe forego, I would forego doing the last fine primer for this. So sort of offsets that time, makes this worth doing. And the price of primer anymore, I mean, hell, clear coat's not any more than primer now anyway. So what I do is, now I've had a chance to really go over it. Everything's prepped really, really nice. Car's super smooth to lay paint on. This stuff is hard. So it gives you that chance to for whatever reason, when you're spraying on this really hard surface, that paint just lays down. It's crazy how it does it. And it makes you look like you know what you're doing. And then if I don't know what I'm doing fully, well, we'll fix it with a buffer. But I try to do this in a nice grid so I don't miss a spot. Well, like I said, the car's pretty clean because I did it with pre-wash and I dried it with another clean cloth. So it's had 2 wipings already before I'm doing this. So I'm not picking up really much on my tack rag, but you will see a little discoloration there. So there obviously is some stuff. And it gives me a chance to run my hand all over the car one more time and see if I feel something that I didn't feel before. Mind you, I've seen it now shiny black, so I know there's really nothing to see, but I still try to pay attention. What I'll do before I paint it, or before I get going on the top here, I'll run it up in the air and I'll spray my lower areas because I can see that really good now. And I probably won't worry about that too much again. That should stay. Because I already have coverage everywhere. You know, what's really under. I'll just do that so that stays wet while I'm spraying the rest of it. Because I'm going to do 2 coats and done. Well, that's the hope. You never know when you start this stuff. The plan is 2 coats. So we'll kind of see see how it's laying down. That'll judge what I do from there. But the plan is 2 coats. So I'll do one right on top of the other. I'm going to do a thin drop coat and a heavy coat. Walk away. If that works. I wear this thing, keep dirt from me getting on it. I wear one with a hoodie because I was painting a blue Corvette one time and there's a nice big black hair in the hood. That looked pretty bad. That was years ago. Now I'm painting a black car. There'll be a big gray hair hanging in something, so you don't want that. So, you know, just all crap we do just to try and keep stuff out of the paint. Because, I mean, the cleaner and the smoother this is now, the less work I got to do later to make it pretty. So that's what we're shooting for. Just trying to minimize the punishment of buffing, because I really don't like buffing. It's still probably wet, but it will actually lay down a little bit more. Looks pretty good though. Pretty happy with it. I got this little spot right there. I don't know if it shows. I got my leg into it. Must be. I didn't notice it, but I saw it as I was putting the second coat on. Must be when I did the roof, my pant leg hit it or something. So that'll have to be sanded and buffed. That kind of sucks, but... And then I'm not sure right in here if it's going to be a little dry-ish. But we'll see there as it hardens up. But, and then I had a speck. I had a couple specks, right? I got one there. There's a couple right there. And there's one up there. So there's a little section there with some specks. So those will definitely sand and buff. A little bit right in this corner. They're just a little bit right in this area. I have to do probably both sail panels, truth be told. We'll end up doing them. And I got a little dribble right there, which is a very nasty spot. Unfortunate. Clear coat gathered along the tape line. But all that is definitely easily fixed. And it doesn't look like I'm going to have to sand the whole car, which is awesome. If I do want to drag a buffer over it, I can just lay a buffer over it without all the sanding. And I may not even buff it. We'll see. We'll come back and look at it in a few hours. We'll see how it looks and go from there. But definitely worked out good. See the reflection of the ceiling. Yeah, I like it. Well, we'll come back to it. Overall, I'll call it a success. It's been a few hours. Paint's, you know, it's tightened up enough it's not going to move anymore. When you get it on there nice and wet, like I spray it fairly heavy, you get it on there nice and wet, it'll kind of run a little bit on the surface for a while, which is why I say we'd have to come back and look at it after. But everything looks pretty good. It laid down there pretty nice and smooth. So that's all good. And you know, you can see where I come back over my overlap. There is just a little bit in there I'll have to buff. It doesn't show too bad in the camera, but it's pretty smooth and everything, but just this shine's just not quite as hard right in this sail panel. So I'll buff, because you see, it does show there kind of. You see how much shinier it is. And that, yeah, you can kind of see it there. It's not as nice as this, you know, so I'll buff that area, because when I paint the roof, I come down through here, and then I've got this area that has paint on it, and then I come back and I do my fender. So by the time I get back here, it's starting to kind of set up a little bit, is why you have that. I go back over it, but it's not enough to really wet it down. But that's okay. That's small potatoes. Hell of a lot less work than buffing a car. Everything looks good in here. Like I said, I do have those few little dirt specks there I'll take out. Again, pretty minor. But it definitely has good shine. So I think we'll, yep, I'm happy. I'm happy. Imagine most of you guys are like me. You don't have the money for a paint booth, and like myself, I certainly, even if I did have the money for it, I couldn't justify the space for it. Take up a bay in here. It's a lacking room anyway. I mean, I only paint a couple cars a year, so there's not much point in, you know, trying to arrange that. The whole deal with this is I'm painting this first batch and everything, you know, because we're in a work area. We clean it up what we can, but then whatever paint fumes are on from the first time, it kind of sticks everything down. So you have way less airborne crap your second time around. Whatever might be in the car loose, that's stuck down. So you really don't have a whole lot of trash ever when you do this a second time. And then like I say, it saves me the last priming and the last block sanding. So I just put that over to the clear coat, which is fine. And for whatever reason, I can take a super smooth primer. I can't lay that finish on it. I don't know why. Just doesn't work that way. And, you know, I mean, I'm only painting 2 coats, so there's not as much time for airborne crap to get in. There's not as much build up, so you don't have as much texture. And it's just, to me, this is just an easy way to do it. I probably lied a little bit going into this, because I said I was going to do a drop coat and then a heavy coat, and I ended up doing 2 pretty heavy coats, but that's what the car wanted today. I mean, again, we're not climate controlled. I don't have any temperature control or humidity control or anything, you know. So, I mean, every day the paint's a little different, so you got to get used to it. I mean, full disclosure, I used to carry a gun around and paint people's trucks for them. I was a hired gun for quite a long time. And then earlier on in life, we had a body shop, and I'd paint about 2 a week, just real shy of cheapos. But I mean, we cranked out a lot of paint work, so I do have some experience painting. I'm not saying you're just going to jump in and do it, but on the other hand, if you do it like this, where you're painting over this surface, you can. And then the other point of it is today's world, the buffing techniques, what they are, even if you do have a little problem, you can buff it out of them. I mean, you can sand out, buff out, whatever's going on, as long as you have enough material. Doing it this way, we've got plenty of material. I've got 3 really heavy coats on it, and 1 lighter coat. Now, we did sand in between, so that cut some material down, but there's plenty on here. Like this little bit here where I stuck my leg in it won't be a big deal. I'm not going to cut the whole car. I'm very happy with it. If I can lay a paint job done like that and show it off, I'm more than happy to say it came out of the gun. This sucker will go to the customer like this. But I will fix these little spots, you know. The stuff that I'm not super happy with, I will fix. If it looks very, very different, because sometimes it does, it changes it, it sort of softens the paint a little bit. If it looks very different, I'll be forced to, you know, maybe drag a number 2 to number 3 compound over the whole car, just so everything kind of has that same, it ages the paint a little bit is what it does. It just looks a little more like a paint that's been around and washed a few times. If that's what I have to do, is what I'll do. I'll try not to, because as I say, I don't really want to put the time into it. I'm happy with what it is. I'd love to just send it like this. If that's possible, that's what I'm going to do. But I will, you know, this was a boo-boo on my part. I don't know how the hell I did that. And, you know, the dirt, well, dirt is what it is. There's not a lot of it, but look, you know, must be something in that corner. Got a little air or something, and just shed a few pieces on it. But, you got to expect a little bit of that. There's no getting around it. You're going to have something. This is not a hell of a lot, you know. So, I mean, I've got a little area like this. I'll do the sail panel, so I will sand and buff this area here on both sides, and then that little stretch on the trunk lid. There's about a stretch like that and that where you've got a little bit of dirt. We'll be good to go.